Hey guys, and welcome to my first tutorial on Unity game development. Today I'll show you guys a very simple technique called light mapping, which you can use to make your VR game look beautiful. I created a very simple bedroom scene in Unity, which you're looking at right now, to show you guys how powerful this functionality can be. All the 3D assets used in this scene were created by me in a 3D modeling tool called Blender. As you can see, all the models are fairly simple geometrically, so it only took me about an hour and a half to model and texture everything. I may create another Blender tutorial in the future to show you how I made all those models. In this video, however, I'll focus on the light mapping technique and let you all see the amazing results you can achieve with it with minimal effort. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning and try to reverse engineer the steps I took to arrive at the results that you saw before in the previous picture that I showed you. So as you can see, initially the scene looks like this. When I first moved the models into the scene, you can see it's pretty dark. There are no light sources. Most of the illumination comes from the skybox. So if you go to lighting right here, environment lighting, source skybox. If I was to change that to color and make it black, you can see everything disappears. I'll put it back to skybox. We're going to leave it like that for now. So you can see all the models don't have any textures on right now, so they're all just gray. So our first step is to start texturing all the models. Let's start with the bed. Let's go to our scene view. So this is how it looks. As you can see, I only bothered to create the two walls of the bedroom, since that's the only thing we're looking at. So, the bed. First thing is the mattress, which is a base, which basically is just a legacy shader, a diffuse legacy shader. So let's pull that in here. So you can see the only thing it has is, well, it has no texture. It only has the main color, which I chose to be, well, this color. And then let's do the bed cover, which is this guy. And coincidentally, I also use the same material for the pillows. So let's see what's the bed cover. I use this curtain cloth right here, which is a seamless texture, which you can use for, well, all kind of materials that have cloth in them. And now let's put the texture for the frame of the bed. There we go. Actually, I'm not sure I have two materials here. I'll just delete this. And the frame of the bed is basically just this texture, this wood texture here. And the material itself has a tiling of x2 by 2, which we need, because if I put that tiling to 1, you can see there isn't enough detail there, so I just increase the tiling. So if you look here, now there's more detail, and I think it just looks a lot better this way. So the bed is done. Now let's go on to the carpet, which I believe is somewhere around here. Okay, there it is. So let's pull the carpet in there. So let's see what's inside the carpet. So I'm using the standard material here, which I believe I can actually just change to, let's go to, what was I looking for? Legacy shaders, diffuse. Actually no, I can't use that. I need to use, which one was it? Diffuse detail, I'm sorry. So the way that works is you have your main texture, which is the, as you can see here, it's got the pattern of a carpet. And then I also added this texture to create basically more graphical variety for the carpet. And you can see that the tiling for this texture is 5.5 because we don't want it to be too big. That's how it would look if that was 1.1. So you can see that's way too big. It doesn't look very realistic. So make it 5.5. Now let's do the chair. So the chair is made of two parts. One is the cushion, Again, I put standard here, but we can just use diffuse because all I need is that color here. Now this color can be changed to whatever you want, but I just chose, it's kind of a bluish. And then the texture here is the leather texture. Oops, what is it? Yeah, there's the leather texture, seamless, so you can just use that for any material that contains leather. So okay, so that was the cushion for the seat. Now for the legs, what I'm using is a standard material, and I make it smooth and metallic so it reflects, but you can see it's black now because I haven't added the reflection probe yet, but I'll do it in a second. Now next one, decorations. Those are basically those 3 items. Let's put it here. And again, very similar to the legs for the chair. That's basically just a standard material with some custom color set, and the smoothness set to pretty high value. So they're reflective, but not too reflective. Next one is the door, which is the guy here. Let's put it here. The door is basically just a simple wood texture. Again, I don't have to use a standard material. I can just use the diffuse material. Yeah, it's much better to use this for performance reasons. So yeah, whenever if you can help it, don't use the standard material. Just use the mobile diffuse material. If what's that? I used the wrong one. Excuse me. Is the diffuse one? That's the one. Yeah. So if you're making a virtual reality game, then if you can use the mobile diffuse material, then use that because it has by far the best performance compared to all the other materials. So door's done. Now let's do the drawers. First one is the drawer frame. So again, that's, yeah, I'm using standard material again. You can change that to, yeah, just mobile diffuse. That's good enough. And again, tiling 2x2. I think actually 3x3 will look better than this. Does it look better? Yeah, let's go with this. And then the material for the drawers. Let's just put it in here. And again, I'm not sure why I use the standard material. I can just use... Actually, I know now. Looks like my intention was to make this material slightly reflective. So I make the smoothness quite high here. I should increase the metallic. So the smoothness, obviously, in case you don't know that yet, the smoothness, well, as the name suggests, sets how smooth your material is. And the metallic slider here sets how reflective it is. So how much of the light that falls on it gets bounced off. So if that was a mirror, you would have smoothness to 1, and then metallic that will be set to 1 as well. But it's not, so let's undo this. Now let's do the floor. For the floor, I'm using a seamless wood texture like this one. Now, if you, in case you were wondering where I got this from, it's all from googling stuff. It's all available for free online. So the footstool, again, that's using the leather texture, which I believe, yeah, is style 5x5. And yeah, I chose this dark color, but it's really up to you guys. If you are creating your own bedroom, you can choose whatever other color you want that fits more with your taste. Now let's do the lamp. So the lamp is made out of 2 materials. One is the handle, which is going to be metallic, and again, it's going to be black now because there's no reflection probe. And let's put the cover in here. So you can see the cover is emissive because this, well, as you would expect, this is supposed to be a lamp, so we want this to emit light. Let's put that here as well. Put the lamp here, lamp material. Now let's do the paintings. Those are just paintings I googled up on the internet. So let's just put it here. There we go. Let's do the walls now. The walls, I believe, that can all be changed to mobile diffuse. we don't need a standard material, which is very graphically intensive to use. What did I do before? Oops, excuse me, I made a mistake because I need the color. So instead of mobile diffuse, let's go for legacy shaded diffuse, which allows me to set the main color. Let's do the same thing for those two guys. There we go. Yeah, so I believe this guy goes here, this guy goes here, and this guy goes here. Now let's do the wall padding, which is this guy here. And again, I believe, yep, that's just a wood texture. I believe I don't need it to be using standard material, so let's change that to diffuse. Okay, so there we go. That's how the scene looks like with all the textures on. We can see it still doesn't look as good as the initial picture that I showed you guys. So the last magic piece that you have to do is to do light mapping. So the first thing we have to do is to add a light source. Now you can see I'm gonna add a point light here. Let's go to our scene view. So this is the position of the point light. If you need to create a point light from scratch, you just go to game object, light, and then you can choose the type of light that you want. So in this case I'm creating the point light, and you can see the range is 15. So this is how far that point light is going to reach. So the point light emits light equally in all directions. So the light goes, the light intensity is equal in all directions. And you can see the range is 15. So anything beyond that point will not be affected by that light. And the reason why I set the range to so much bigger than the room itself is because I want the light hitting the walls to be of more or less equal intensity, right? Whereas if I made it smaller, let's say if I make it 2, make it 3, and I was to increase intensity to say 5, then you can see at this point it's super bright, but at this point it's very dark, because this point is just so much closer to the light source than this point. I mean, actually this point is not even within range of the light source. You can see how the light just falls off too much. The contrast between the bright area and the dark area is too much. That's why it's better to just set something to a very large range but small intensity. In this case, each ray of light falling on the walls has more or less equal amount of intensity, with some small variations. Like here you can see it's brighter, but that's fine. So you can see the mode here is real time. This is not what we want. We want it to be baked. Now if you have some moving objects in your scene, what you can do is put it to mixed, in which case you can still use light mapping technique, but on top of that your light source will also illuminate objects which are moving, right? But if you put it as baked, then this light will only affect objects which are not moving. And the way to denote which objects are not moving is to mark them as static. And this light source is baked. Now I also added 2 more point lights, and I added them here because I want this area to be illuminated by the lamp. Or should I say, I want this area to look like it was illuminated by that lamp. Similarly for this area. And then the last light source I'm adding is the area light here, so that we have a nice... So actually, if you go back to the initial picture that we had, you can see there's a very, very nice bright area here. So it looks like there was some kind of a lamp above there shining the light down. So this is the effect that we want to achieve, and we achieve that with this area light. So it basically emits light in the direction of the blue arrow from that area, from that yellow area here. Which means that when we start baking the light map, this area here will be a bit brighter than than the other places. Okay, so now that we have our light sources, let's see. So you can see this still doesn't look as good as the initial picture, which is this one. All the shadows you see here, let me say it again. All the shadows you see here are real-time shadows, so they will never be as good quality as the baked shadows. So, if you know that none of those objects in your game will be moving, as I said before, you can mark them as static. And that means that when we start baking the light map, the Unity graphics engine will start baking all the shadows for you. And it will bake those shadows in very high quality, much higher quality than what you see here. So let's go to lighting section. You definitely want to uncheck this. You don't want real-time global illumination. You want to check this box, baked global illumination. There are a few different lighting modes. The most performance, the least performance hungry lighting mode is subtractive. So if you really worry about your game's performance, then click subtractive. In subtractive light mode, all the moving objects will not have a shadow, right? But if you want your moving objects to have a shadow from the light sources, then you can go either for shadow mask or baked indirect. So baked indirect is the most power consuming lighting mode. It is almost as good as the as real-time lighting, and shadow mask is somewhere in the middle. So in this case, we're just going to use subtractive because that's all we need. Okay, so light mapping settings down here. Again, if you want to speed up your baking process, you can change those values here. The more samples you have, the longer it would take to bake the light map. Similar for indirect samples. And then you have the bounces here. The more bounces you have, the longer it will take to bake, but the better the end results will be. In this case, I set it to 2 because that's good enough. And then you have the light map resolution. In this case, I set it to 100. Now that affects how high resolution your light map is going to be. So obviously, the higher resolution, the better the shadows will look. So if you go to your scene view, click on shaded here, and then click on baked light map, and you can see those little squares here. That kind of shows you how high resolution your light map is going to be. So if you were to reduce this, say from 100 to 10, you can see the squares are bigger now, and that shows you that the resolution of the end light map is going to be a lot smaller, which means it will take a lot shorter to bake, but your end result will be not so good. So 100 here is good. Now you can also change the light map size for each individual object. So let's say I want to see the bed, the mattress. Now if you go to baked light map, so you can see the squares are pretty small, but I can change that to, if you go to the inspector, go to scale and light map, you can reduce that to say 0.1, and you can see now the squares are a lot bigger. So you have quite a lot of control here with when it comes to setting the size of your light map. But we just want to leave it at default 1. Okay. Now you can choose to compress your light maps, which means that obviously it will not look as good as if you were to uncheck this. But if you are short on memory, you can click that, and the resulting light map will take less space. Okay, so the last thing you have to do is just to click generate lighting, and it will start baking for you. So let's do that. And so you can see it start baking now. And because I have a pretty fast computer, it should take me less than a minute and a half to finish. Okay, so here we have the end result. So I sped up the part of the video where it was baking, so you guys don't have to wait on the baking. So you can see it looks really nice now. You can see the shadows are very high quality. It just looks a lot more realistic now compared to before, when there was no baking, no light mapping being used. Now you can see we actually missed a few places here with our texturing. So our head of the bed doesn't have any. The head of the bed doesn't have any texture. So let's put it there. Let's go. Where's the bed? Okay, let's put it here. And also the drawers. I forgot. Oh no, it's right there. I didn't expect it to be so dark. Interesting. Huh, why is it so dark? Ah yes, now I remember. I have not re-enabled the reflection probe. So you can see if I enable the reflection probe, this goes from black to the reflection, which is basically the reflection of the skybox. And this also becomes brighter because it is a tiny bit reflective. And you can also see here the lamp has a nice reflection now. So before we finish, the last thing I wanted to mention was the a special property that you have to check for each item that you're baking the light map for. So let's say I click on this cube. You can see there's an option here to stitch seams. Now this is very useful. It may take a bit longer to bake if you select this, but it's very useful for your end results because it removes a lot of shade artifacts that you get around the seams of your UV mapping. So for example, if you look at this mattress here, this is where the UV mapping seam for the mattress is. So you can see there's still a bit of artifact left here. But if I didn't click on that, you would be able to see quite a lot of artifact, a lot of noise around the seams. So if you want good results, always select this option here. I think it's quite useful, and it's worth a slightly longer baking time. So this is the end result. I think it is a bit brighter than the initial picture that I showed you guys, and I think that's because the light here perhaps is a bit too bright. So let's see if I reduce it to 0.8, and let's try to bake it again. Here we go. So that's our end result, and I think it looks a lot better now. So as you can see, with light mapping you can achieve really amazing graphical end results, and that just shows that you don't need to have 3D models with millions of vertices to be able to achieve high fidelity graphics. With a bit of light mapping and with a bit of clever 3D modeling, you can achieve really amazing end results. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more of this, click subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.